Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome, everybody, to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. You're going to love my guest today. But before I introduce him, I want to say if you're here at the Heal Your Hunger Show for your first time, welcome. We're so glad you stumbled across this podcast because we share so much important information for those who struggle with food and weight, who are totally sick of dieting and being on that roller coaster ride, because God knows it's a frustrating one and it's a long ride, right? Like decades long. So there is a different way to go. If you want to get control of your health, if you want to feel in control around food, if you want to love your food choices and love your body, let's start a deeper conversation, the conversation that isn't like happening out there, the conversation about what's driving you to the kitchen in the first place, what's making you feel addicted to food, what's making you feel hungry all the time. My experiences as somebody who was 50 pounds overweight, it wasn't actually food I was really hungry for. There was so much more, and until I took a look at that, it was hard for me to lose weight and keep it off. So if that's your experience, join us, all the time here in the podcast, but also jump over to my website and take the emotional eating quiz. So you can find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. My experience is it's a spectrum. Find out where you are on the spectrum by taking this free quiz. It's on the website, healyourhunger.com, HEAL, healyourhunger.com. And then you'll get action steps on what to do next based on your personalized score. And also, I'm actually recording this in the Heal Your Hunger Facebook group. It's actually the secret sauce to end emotional eating. So the secret sauce to end emotional eating is our public Facebook group. It's private actually, but I'm just saying it's a Facebook group for people who kind of want to find community, be amongst people who are tired of dieting, but are still interested in weight loss, but in a non-dieting way. So join us on Facebook at the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating Now. Okay, on with the show. I have got a men's health expert with us, and I'm really excited to have him here. Hi, Dr. Tracy. How are you?
Hi, Tricia. How are you today? So glad to be with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I'm going to just share a little bit about you. So pardon me while I speak about you. Dr. Tracy Gapin is a board-certified urologist, world-renowned men's health and performance expert, and the founder of the Gapin Institute for High Performance Health. He's a thought leader, a professional speaker, and the author of the best-selling books, Male 2.0 and Codes of Longevity. He has over 20 years of experience focusing on men's health, human performance, and longevity. He's been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, Dave Asprey's Biohacking Conference, and NBC. So great to see you, Tracy. Thanks for coming on to talk about men's health.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's really good because most of the people listening are women, and most women, not all women, of course, but many women, I would say, are married to a man, and so they know about how frustrating it is to get a man to take care of his health. Why is that?
Yeah, you're right. Men are in trouble. I talk about a men's health crisis that's not getting the attention it deserves. And a lot of it is our own fault because we are negligent when it comes to our health. We're complacent. We have this disease model mentality that we've become trained to wait until there's a problem. If it's not broken, don't fix it kind of mentality. And that's really come to hurt us where it's often too late. And
Yes.
So I find so many men, if they would pay attention and wake up and, do what they have to do, the earlier you can get a hold of things, the better off you're going to be for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for how a woman can, help a man without bruising his ego?
Yeah, that's a good point. Men are simple creatures. We say, just tell me what to do is what I hear guys tell me all day, every day. And so a lot of times women just need to feel empowered to take charge and tell their man, go seek help, get your hormone levels checked, get your other marker, your lab work checked, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And really focus on your health. You know, one of the key things I like to emphasize is your sexual performance is a direct window into your health. And so often men come to me struggling with the same three things. They're like, you know, I have low energy and focus, I can't lose weight, and I'm starting to have issues in the bedroom. And those are really key signs that there's a problem going on, and it's not one single thing. And that's something that we can dive deeper into as well. But suffice it to say that sexual health issues are really the first sign there's something going on.
And that's so interesting because those are like the three complaints women have too about
Pretty much.
themselves,
Pretty
but
much,
maybe
yeah.
about their guy too.
Yeah.
So, okay. So ED, erectile dysfunction. So you see a lot of guys who have that. How common is that?
Yeah, you know, the statistics out there say numbers like over 60% of men over the age of 50. And I think that it's tough to really quantify because number one, men are very reluctant to admit it. They're, you know, men get embarrassed by it. They don't want to talk, they get squeamish about it, don't want to talk about it. And then you could also look at, you know, what are the levels of sexual dysfunction that men encounter? Some men may only have it every now and then, others can't perform at all. And there's the spectrum in between. And so, you know, where do you really quantify that? I think can really affect the statistics. But I'll tell you, most men that I work with at some point in their lives, they're experiencing issues, whether it's lack of libido, loss of sex drive, inability to perform, inability to climax, or inability to please their partner, or just lack of energy because of everything else they have going on in their life, that it just is, it's an afterthought.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a problem. And so that's a high statistic, 60% you shared.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. So I know you, I've known you for years. I adore you. And I also love your philosophy, which is let's get to the bottom of this. You know, let's not treat the symptom. Let's really get to the root cause. So I would imagine you have that feeling about ED as well. Like it's stemming from many other things, or or it's like you said, the first sign that something's wrong.
That's right. You know, I like to describe us as these complex organisms, and we have this human operating system, if you will. And when we find that part of it's not working, the simple knee-jerk reaction is, oh, I just need some testosterone, or just give me a blue pill. And those, in my opinion, are really band-aids. They're very short-sighted ways of really trying to address the problem by sticking your head in the sand. And the key in my mind to really overcome that is to understand what are all the inputs into our system that are causing problems. And so when I work with men, we are plugging your race car into the computer, and we're finding all the systems that are working very well and all the ones that need attention.
Got it. And so what are the most typical causes, would you say?
Yeah, so it starts with hormones. You know, most men that I work with, one of the biggest issues they have is hormones. And I want to clarify that we're experiencing a testosterone pandemic, and testosterone levels have plummeted over the last 20, 30 years dramatically. I'm seeing men in their 20s and 30s with low T. It's incredible. And there were 3 massive studies, one here in the US, one in Sweden, one in Finland, all longitudinal 20-year plus studies that all show the same thing. And that is that free testosterone is down by almost 50%.
Wow.
What that means is free testosterone is almost half of what it was 20, 30 years ago. So what that means is your levels, every man I'm talking to here today, your levels are probably half where they need to be. And that will typically present as issues like low energy, especially later in the day, fatigue, brain fog, loss of focus, loss of mental acuity, loss of concentration, memory, sort of cognitive function kind of aspects, difficulty burning fat. I see so many men with belly fat that they can't get rid of, and they're no matter what they do, they can't shake it. And they're dieting and they're on the treadmill all day and nothing works. Typically that's hormone driven. Guys will have issues where they crash. It's early evening and they're asleep. They cannot stay awake. They are stressed out. They are in a cranky, crummy mood all day, every day. No interest in sex, or when they do have sex, they can't perform like they used to. These are all signs of issues with hormones, and testosterone is the biggest one. So that's by far the most common problem. But I want to emphasize, testosterone gets all the attention. We have about 30 hormones we care about that don't get any attention at all. And so coming back to your question that I know I'm giving you a long roundabout answer here, is we're looking at other hormones. When we work with men, it's testosterone, it's thyroid, it's DHEA, it's cortisol, it's insulin, it's vitamin D, it's nitric oxide, it's estrogen, it's melatonin. It goes on and on and on. And so the key is to understand that it's like this symphony, and you have to look at every instrument to understand what needs help.
Got it. So, why is there such a drop in testosterone though? What is there is there an environmental issue there, or what's that about?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can look at stress and diet and, seed oils and all the increased inflammation we're dealing with from, crummy refined diets. But without question, the studies are clearly pointing to endocrine disruptors in our environment that are causing this. So for the listeners, endocrine disruptors are simply chemicals or toxins in our environment that can affect hormone endocrine function. And it could do it by either blocking hormone production. It could block hormone function at the receptor, the hormone receptor, like the androgen receptor for testosterone. It can also act like an estrogenic, so basically causes overstimulation or blocks the receptor from working. So some of these chemicals or toxins will act like glue to the androgen receptor, and it's like turning off a light switch that never turns off. And by overstimulation, it shuts the whole system down. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about things like plastics. So plastic water bottles, one of the biggest culprits in our environment. Studies have shown that BPA, bisphenol A, and phthalates, which are both used to make plastics, have been shown to clearly crush hormones, especially testosterone. So men, here's my gallon Yeti stainless, simple modern stainless steel water bottle that I drink my filtered water from every day. Got to filter your water as well, because we know very clearly that our water supply has synthetic estrogen from women's birth control that doesn't really get filtered very well by our municipal treatment centers.
Wow.
These things matter. These things add up and they matter. So we need to be filtering our water and putting them in stainless steel or glass containers, not using plastics. Same thing with our food. So we need to be using non-plastic food containers, glass or Pyrex or something like that, especially if it's warm, if you're going to be heating it up. Organic fresh fruits and vegetables are critical. Our crops are getting sprayed with atrazine and glyphosate and all these other chemicals, which have been shown to crush hormone function. We can look at personal care products like laundry detergent's a big one, soap, shampoo, sunscreen's a big one as well. Any kind of plastics in our, in our car, for example, plastic baby bottles, plastic toys for our kids, even IV tubing at the hospital. These chemicals are leaching into our bodies and they're crushing our health. Yeah.
Amazing. That was quite a list, Tracy. That's kind of scary.
It really is. It really is. And the regulations are limited here in the US compared to other countries in the world. And it doesn't get much attention. It's not very sexy, but we are living in a layer upon layer of endocrine disruption. It's like a soup of endocrine disruption, I call it. And it's a big deal. And it definitely affects hormone function.
Oh gosh, I'm so glad we're talking about this. Can we transition to talking about prostate health and what you see there?
So many men struggle with issues of prostate health. Prostatitis is a big one, inflammation in the prostate. And one of the things that does not get enough attention is gut health. We are struggling with inflammation throughout our body, chronic inflammation, acute inflammation when you skin your knee or when you hurt your elbow playing tennis or golf or something like that. That's one thing. We're talking about chronic inflammation in our bodies. And so often that comes from our gut. And every man I see tells me, no, I don't have any gut issues. I'm fine. At regular bowel movements, no issues there. And every one of them has major gut issues that they didn't even realize.
Really?
And so microbiome testing will show inflammation. It'll show dysbiosis, which is basically, imbalance and too many of the bad bugs, not enough good bugs in the gut. And this matters because it affects systemic inflammation throughout our body. And one of the most common ways that presents is with prostatitis or recurring urinary tract infections or recurring sinus infections as well. I had a client I've been seeing for years whose teenage son was having recurring sinus infections. And I said, look, I'm not an adolescent ENT doctor by any means, but let's just check his gut. And magically, we found major issues that once I corrected them, his sinus infections that he had had for 10 years are gone.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it's really remarkable, the connection between your gut and other areas of your body, especially when you have recurring infection, inflammation, stuff like that. So that's one of the big ones we see. And then the other one will be prostate cancer. I'll tell you that there have been clear studies that link low testosterone with prostate cancer. And we know that several studies have shown that low testosterone is associated with about a 30% increased risk of prostate cancer, clinically significant prostate cancer. So men with low T also need to get, regular prostate cancer screening as well.
Got it. And what, besides getting your hormones checked and getting the appropriate amount of, testosterone, do you recommend like any supplements for prostate health?
Great question. It depends on the individual, but what I do when I work with men is I take a very data-driven perspective where we do testing. We do a lot of testing. We do blood testing. We're looking at markers of inflammation, nutrient levels. We're looking at cardiovascular markers of blood sugar regulation. Hormones is a big one. Then we're looking at cortisol testing, which is salivary testing now. Then we're looking at stool testing, test microbiome. And so we're doing a lot of really comprehensive testing, and based on findings, based on symptoms, based on goals, we will create customized plans. So I don't ever really recommend any generic supplement for every guy when it comes to prostate health.
Got it. So let's talk about weight loss.
Yeah.
So that's obviously, you mentioned the testosterone being connected to the gut, also to the belly, right? Belly fat. What other reasons is it just, I know women are emotional eaters, many of them. And I know, we just started, accepting men into our program as well. So I know there's, we have an obesity epidemic, and it's not just women. I know it applies to men too. And I know men are emotional eaters as well. What other things are happening in men's bodies that are causing weight gain and obesity besides emotional eating?
And I love I love the work you're doing. It's such a powerful cause, and obesity has become a real big problem in our society. And I think the key is to recognize that there are a lot of different causes. So this is where sometimes genetics can help us understand, certain people may have issues where they're more predisposed to insulin resistance, purely based on genetics. Some people may be issues with dopamine at the brain level, or leptin, or ghrelin, or other hormones at the brain level that can affect our sense of hunger and our sense of satiety, meaning we don't know when we're supposed to be hungry and when we're supposed to be full. And so sometimes there's neurotransmitters, and work on the neurotransmitters to regulate that better so that guys cannot always have the sensation of hunger. Sometimes it's behavioral, where a lot of guys will just snack throughout the day simply because they're bored, because they equate boredom with hunger. And so sometimes it's simply behavioral. So my guys, we work with coaches, functional medicine health coaches, to understand, how do I shift behavior and recognize hunger versus satiety. Sometimes it's what we're eating. So sometimes guys are eating too much carbs, too many refined processed sugars, and macronutrient ratios are out of balance. And this is where genetics can also help guide us on understanding carbohydrate macros to protein macros to fat macros. And some men will actually, this is crazy, some men can actually lose weight with higher carbs, and genetics guide that. But I want to be clear, carbs, we're not talking about pizzas and cupcakes and candy and chips. We're talking about the complex carbs, sweet potatoes, quinoa, broccoli, stuff like that. So sometimes understanding genetics can help us really refine macro ratios. Other times it's how you eat. So I'm a massive believer in the power of intermittent fasting, and it can really have a remarkable benefit. Helps with autophagy, it helps with hormone function, helps with cognitive function, and I love intermittent fasting. If guys have never done it, I say start just one day a week, pick one single day and just go 18 hours from when you finish dinner, just go 18 hours. You can do it.
18. Wow, you're
18.
really pushing it, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, if you do less than 16, it doesn't really work. And so you have to do minimum 16. And so I push my guys to do, just give me one freaking 18-hour fast a week. And then once they do that, they realize that's really not so hard. And then we'll do that for a month. Now give me 2 days a week. And then we gradually work our way up from there. And so I love intermittent fasting. A lot of it also is the effect on insulin sensitivity. And I'm a firm believer in CGM, continuous glucose monitors. So all the clients I work with, we use CGM to track blood sugar and understand how our foods are really affecting us. For example, I used to eat sushi a lot. Oh, sushi is a healthy food. It's rice. It's, it's good for you. Oh my gosh, Tricia, my blood sugar would spike over 200 for a couple hours. And it's my kryptonite. And so I learned that for me, that certain foods are very bad for me, for my genetics. Other foods aren't quite so bad. I found though, if I would eat, let's say, a plate of Brussels sprouts or beans, and then I ate fish, and even then I had white rice at the end of that meal, my blood sugar barely spiked at all. And so blood sugar regulation can sometimes be how you eat, the order you eat, more so than what you're eating. And so for me, you see how it's not just hunger and satiety, it's not macro ratios, not calories necessarily, it's not what you're eating, not how you're eating. Sometimes putting all those together, and then we haven't even touched on the fact that hormones affects all that, because you could be doing everything right, and then if your hormones aren't working properly, then you're going to fail. I'll give a great example of Bob Harper. I love telling this story, not because it's good for him, but Bob Harper, he's the trainer on the TV show The Biggest Loser. And a few years back at age 52, Bob had a heart attack. Bob was in like the best shape of his life. He looks like someone that we all aspire to be. And he had a heart attack. How is that possible? And my take home message from that is that diet and exercise alone are not enough. And we need to dive deeper and find the hidden blind spots in our health that are holding us back. And so often that's hormones, it's inflammation, it's oxidative stress, it's catabolic physiology, all these other processes that are happening that if we don't address, then you're going to keep struggling with that belly fat.
Amen. Wow. We've covered a lot of ground here. It's really amazing. I love that. Now, obviously you've talked a lot about testing, a lot about data, driving the work that you do. Do you only see patients in Florida in person?
Great question. So the answer is no. So I work with men and we work with women around the country as well. I have an amazing, lovely nurse practitioner who works with all the women so that I can focus on men, because my passion and my focus has always been men's health. And so I get to stay in my lane. But the answer is we work through telehealth with folks all around the country. And so some states we can see you via telehealth remotely throughout the entire length of our programs, or we can actually, for some of our programs, we'll fly into town to see us at the center for a one-day visit to kind of get you set up and get you rolling as well.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's really good news. And it sounds very customized and kind of concierge. Do you consider yourself a concierge doctor?
Yeah, we talk a lot about concierge medicine, although sometimes that gives the connotation of primary care. And I want to emphasize that, we work on health optimization, human performance, longevity. Like I said, people come in those, people ask for 4 things. I want more energy and focus. I want to lose weight. I want to have better sex. And oh, by the way, I want to live longer too. And so now why not? Right? Yeah. So we focus on those 4 things, and we provide a very comprehensive approach to that. Very personalized, very data driven.
What's a good first step if there's a woman or man listening to this and the woman's like, I got to get my husband in on this. He's got to get help. What's a good first step?
Sure. So we have a great way to reach out to us. You can just text the word health to 26786. Again, that's health to 26786.
Okay, health,
And
Health.
HEALTH, that's right, to the number 26786, and you'll get a copy of my 10 Secrets to High Performance Health, and you'll get a link where you can book a call to jump on a call with my team, and we can talk about how we can help you.
Love it. Well, Tracy, thanks so much for coming on. Dr.
course.
Gapin, as you know, is full of lots of knowledge and full of lots of solutions. So don't let your guy waste away and just act like everything's fine when it's not. Okay. Use your, as emotional leaders, we've got great skills at controlling other people. So this is one place where you have permission to step in and be bossy. Okay. Step in and be bossy, get them to take that action, and then go from there. So Tracy, thanks so much for coming on. It's been wonderful to have you. And thanks for all the beautiful work that you do.
My pleasure. You're doing amazing work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.